So how was God's law lost among the Jews? Hmm? The women? There you go. That's safer. uh, yep. Absolutely. So, memory verse. Scott, Mom, Sandy already did it. Anybody else know it? The memory verse. Anybody want to read it? Establish. I can't figure out the establish. What does that mean? Establish you is he paid your price. He made you righteous. He establishes you before the throne of God. Your whole salvation is established in him. All right, so we're continuing to walk through biblical history. We're still at the section where we're returning to Jerusalem from exile in Babylon, which is now, at this point, Medo-Persia. We talked about the roles of Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Zerubbabel, Esther, Mordecai, and today we're going to look at Ezra. So how long did the Babylonian captivity last? 70 years. What is interesting about the parallel between the exile to Babylon and the return from Babylon? How many waves did the exile go in? 3. How many waves did the return go in? 3 as well. So we already looked at the book of Ezra a little bit, but we haven't met Ezra yet. The book of Ezra records the events of the first return, which we've talked about, and return that followed, in which we meet Ezra. Afterwards, the third return was led by Nehemiah, and we'll look at his role, I think, in the next 2 lessons. So during the time of captivity and during the first period of return, there was an abandonment of God's law. Surprise, surprise. We're going to examine how respect for God's law was restored by Ezra. The first 6 chapters of Ezra are dedicated to describing how Cyrus had decreed rebuilding of Jerusalem back in 537 BC, exactly as Isaiah prophesied. Over a period of 22 years and through much opposition, the temple was rebuilt. The sacrifices were being offered as worship to God in the temple, but surprise, surprise, the Jews were not acting very Jewish. And that's a topic we're going to look at today. And we'll start out in Ezra chapter 7. So I'll read all of chapter 7, I believe it is. And don't laugh at me at all these names. Some of them are fun. First few verses are tough. Now after this, in the reign of Xerxes, king of Persia, Ezra, the son of Sariah, the son of Azarah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Shallum, the son of Zadok, the son of Ahitub, the son of Amariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Meroth, son of Zerahiah, son of Uzzah, son of Buka, son of Abusha, son of Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the chief priest. This Ezra went up from Babylon. He was a scribe, skilled in the law of Moses, that the Lord, the God of Israel, had given, and the king granted him all that he asked, for the hand of the Lord his God was on him. And there went up also to Jerusalem in the 7th year of Xerxes the king, some of the people of Israel, and some of the priests and Levites, the singers and gatekeepers, and the temple servants. And Ezra came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king. For on the first day of the 1st month he began to go up from Babylon, and on the first day of the 5th month he came to Jerusalem. For the good hand of his God was on him. For Ezra had set his heart to study the law of the Lord, and to do it, and to teach his statutes and rules in Israel. This is a copy of the letter that King Xerxes gave to Ezra the priest, the scribe, a man learned in the matters of the commandments of the Lord, and his statutes for Israel. Xerxes, king of kings, to Ezra the priest, the scribe of the law of God of heaven, peace. And now I make a decree that anyone of the people of Israel, or their priest, or Levites in my kingdom, who freely offers to go to Jerusalem, may go with you. For you are sent by the king and his 7 counselors to make inquiries about Judah and Jerusalem according to the law of your God, which is in your hands, and also to carry the silver and the gold that the king and his counselors have freely offered to the God of Israel, whose dwelling is in Jerusalem, with all the silver and gold that you shall find in the whole province of Babylonia, and with the free will offerings of the people and the priest, vowed willingly for the house of their God that is in Jerusalem. With this money then you shall with all diligence buy bulls, rams, and lambs, with their grain offerings and their drink offerings, and you shall offer them on the altar of the house of your God that is in Jerusalem. Whatever seems good to you and your brothers to do with the rest of the silver and gold you may do according to the will of your God. The vessels that have been given you for the services of your house of your God you shall deliver before the God of Jerusalem. And whatever else is required for the house of your God, which it falls to you to provide, you may provide it out of the king's treasury. And I, Xerxes the king, make a decree to all the treasurers in the province beyond the river, whatever Ezra the priest, the scribe of the law of the God of heaven requires of you, let it be done with all diligence. Up to 100 talents of silver, 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of oil, and salt without prescribing how much. Whatever is decreed by the God of heaven, let it be done in full for the house of the God of heaven, lest his wrath be against the realm of the king and his sons. We also notify you that it shall not be lawful to impose tribute, custom, or toll on any one of the priests, the Levites, the singers, the doorkeepers, the temple servants, or other servants of this house of God. And you, Ezra, according to the wisdom of your God that is in your hand, appoint magistrates and judges who may judge all the people in the province beyond the river, all such as know the laws of your God. And those who do not know them you shall teach. Whoever will not obey the law of your God and the law of the king, let judgment be strictly executed on him, whether for death or for banishment or for confiscation of his goods or for imprisonment. Blessed be the Lord, the God of our fathers, who put such a thing as this into the heart of a king, to beautify the house of the Lord that is in Jerusalem, and who extended to me his steadfast love before the king and his counselors, and before all the king's mighty officers. I took courage, for the hand of the Lord my God was on him, and I gathered leading men from Israel to go up with me. So, first question, who was the king in Ezra's day? Xerxes, yep. So why does Ezra start out this section of Scripture with a genealogy? Yep, to show that he has what it takes to be the high priest from the line of Aaron. Yep. How did Ezra describe himself in the opening section? Like verse 6. He says, skilled scribe in the law of Moses. Verse 11 also says he's a priest, a scribe, and an expert in the words of the commandments. What phrase does Ezra repeat in verses 6 and 9? The hand of God is on him. So what does that mean? What does that phrase mean? Yep. All his blessings, all his leadings are from God. What important information do we learn about Ezra in verse 10? Devoted himself to the study and to teaching it. So if we were to look forward to chapter 8, we'd read about the preparations of the journey of Jerusalem itself. What does this tell you about chapter 7, verses 7 through 9? Chapter 8 tells us the journey, but what does verses 7 through 9 tell us? It foreshadows that the journey goes well, that they get there, they make it. What is meant by Israel in verses 10 and 11? Hint, they're different. In verse 10, what Israel is he talking about? You're going to teach his statutes and rules in Israel. He's talking about the land, right? In verse 11, what Israel is he talking about? The people. Same word, two different meanings. One's the land and one's actually the Israelites. So let's shift our focus to the letter from the king. What was to be taken to Jerusalem? Lots of money. Silver and gold. What command does he give to his treasurers? In all the provinces that they cross. Whatever Ezra needs, Ezra gets. Up to a limit, but up to a limit. He sets a limit on how much gold and how much silver and how much wine, but it's a pretty high limit. Yeah, but that's before you get down to his letter to the treasurers. The treasurers, up to 100 talents of silver, 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of oil. That's a lot. But that's on top of what he already has been given and is taking down. We'll get to what he's been given somewhere in here. What different names are given for God in the letter from Xerxes? God of Jerusalem, God of heaven, your God, and God of Israel. What other instructions did the king give to the people around Judah, to the other provinces? concerning the people from the temple. Nobody was allowed to tax them or take tolls or anything from anybody that worked at the temple. When Xerxes says beyond the river, what does he mean? If you know the geography over there. No. Beyond the Euphrates. The region west of the Euphrates. So how was Judah to be governed? Ezra is supposed to anoint leaders that are supposed to enforce both laws, the laws of God and the laws of the king. What? It'd be Medo-Persia now, or Babylonia is where they're coming from. It's the province of Babylonia, but it's Medo-Persia. Yeah. Yeah, pushing from the river to the sea. Yep. In verses 27 and 28, you see a switch from Ezra speaking in the third person to changing to speaking in the first person. Why did the king write such a decree that allowed the Jews to return and fund the resurgence of the Jewish religion? Verse 27 makes it clear. Yep. Or Proverbs 21:1 that we've been studying. God controls the hearts of kings. How did Ezra refer to God in his blessing? The Lord, the God of our fathers. What action did Ezra begin to take in light of these events? He starts gathering people, right, to make the journey. No doubt you can see the parallels between Ezra's favor in the eyes of Artaxerxes and the favor shown to Zerubbabel by Cyrus about 70 years earlier. Just as Zerubbabel led the first return, Ezra gathered together many families, including those fit for priesthood, and returned to Jerusalem, some 1,000-mile hike. It would take about 4 months for them to make. With them, they took, anybody know how much silver? 25 tons. How much gold? 4 tons of gold. Along with what other people offered in silver and gold. They took a large sum of money. Yeah. That's why they had the letter from the king that nobody would take or tax. But it was a lot. You can find that in, I think, chapter 8, 26 or 27. So what must be true about God if he's able to direct a king to write a decree like what we just read? All powerful, sovereign, controls it all. What attribute of God was Ezra blessing when he referred to God as the Lord, the God of our fathers? Be his faithfulness. because even though the fathers and everybody strayed and went away, God remained faithful and still brought them back and blessed them quite a bit. Now, for time's sake, we're going to move quickly through the middle section of this account. The first section of chapter 8 details those families who were assembled to return to Jerusalem. Verse 3, for example, you'll see names and total numbers of individuals from the family. Verse 15, you can read that their encampment as they prepared the journey. Ezra revealed that there were no sons of Levi, so he sought men from the tribe that would be servants in the temple. Verse 21, Ezra proclaimed a fast to ask God for safe travels. The section beginning in verse 24 describes the treasures that were taken back and the families that were responsible for guarding them. And that brings us to Ezra chapter 8, verse 31. God. He knows the hearts. So he would know if Jim was going to steal from it or if Jim was going to keep it and make sure it got there. So God knows their hearts. So let's look at 31 through 36. Then we departed from the river Ahab on the 12th day of the first month to go to Jerusalem. The hand of our God was on us, and he delivered us from the head of the enemy and from the ambush by the way. We came to Jerusalem, and there we remained 3 days. On the 4th day, within the house of our God, the silver and the gold and the vessels were weighed into the hands of Meremoth the priest, son of Uriah, and with him Eleazar the son of Phinehas, and with him were the Levites, Jozabad the son of Jeshua, and Nodiah the son of Binu. The whole was counted and weighed, and the weight of everything was recorded. At that time, those who had come from captivity, the returned exiles, offered burnt offerings to the God of Israel, 12 bulls for all of Israel, 96 rams, 77 lambs, and as a sin offering, 12 male goats. All this was a burnt offering to the Lord. They also delivered the king's commission to the king's satraps and to the governors of the provinces beyond the river, and they aided the people and the house of God. So, this group of Jews was led by Ezra, was quite zealous for God. And they now found themselves amongst the Jews who have already been in Judah since Zerubbabel brought the first wave back in. Let's go to verses 1 through 4, chapter 9. After these things had been done, the officials approached me and said, "The people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands with their abominations. From the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken some of their daughters to be wives for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy race has mixed itself with the people of the lands. And in this faithlessness, the hand of the officials and the chief men have been foremost. As soon as I heard this, I tore my garments and my cloak, and pulled hair from my head and beard, and sat appalled. Then all who trembled at the words of the God of Israel, because of the faithlessness of the returned exiles, gathered around me while I sat appalled until the evening sacrifice." So God had expressly forbidden the Jewish people to intermarry with pagan people around them. But here we see even the leaders and the priests are guilty of the transgression. After learning of this, Ezra offers a prayer to God, seeking the repentance of the people for the abomination. That's verses 5 through 15. Now go with me to Ezra 10. verses 1 through 19. While Ezra prayed and made confession, weeping and casting himself down before the house of God, a very great assembly of men, women, and children gathered to him out of Israel, for the people wept bitterly. And Shechaniah, the son of Jehiel, of the sons of Elam, addressed Ezra. We have broke faith with our God, and we have married foreign women from the peoples of the land. But even now there is hope for Israel in spite of this. Therefore, let us make a covenant with our God to put away all the wives and their children according to the counsel of my Lord, and of those who tremble at the commandment of our God, and let it be done according to the law. Arise, for it is your task, and we are with you. Be strong and do it. Then Ezra arose and made the leading priests and Levites in all Israel take an oath that they would do as had been said. So they took an oath. Then Ezra withdrew from before the house of God and went to the chamber of Jehoiada, the son of Elishib, where he spent the night, neither eating bread nor drinking water, for he was mourning over the faithlessness of the exiles. And a proclamation was made throughout Judah and Jerusalem to all the returned exiles that they should assemble in Jerusalem, and that if anyone did not come within 3 days by the order of the officials and the elders, all his property shall be forfeited, and he himself banned from the congregation of the exiles. Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin assembled at Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month, on the 12th day of the month, and all the people sat in the open square before the house of God, trembling because of this matter and because of the heavy rain. And Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, You have broken faith and married foreign women, and so increased the guilt of Israel. Now then, make confession to the Lord, the God of your fathers, and do his will. Separate yourself from the peoples of the land and from foreign wives. Then all the assembly answered with a loud voice, It is so. We must do as you have said. But the people are many, and it is a time of heavy rain, and we cannot stand in the open. Nor is this a task for 1 day or for 2, for we have greatly transgressed in this matter. Let our officials stand for the whole assembly. Let in all our cities who have taken foreign wives come at appointed times, and with them the elders and judges of every city, until the fierce wrath of our God over this matter is turned away from us. Only Jonathan, the son of Ashel, and Jezhi, the son of Tikvah, opposed this. And Methuselah and Shebabethi, the Levite, supported them. Then they returned, exiles did so. Ezra the priest selected men, heads of fathers' houses, according to their fathers' houses, each of them designated by name. On the first day of the 10th month they sat down to examine the matter. And on the first day of the first month they had come to an end of all men who had married foreign women. So where was Ezra during his prayer? At the temple. How did people respond? Was that? They gathered. And they wept over their own sin. Who spoke on behalf of the people? I think it's Shechaniah. Yep. Shechaniah did. And what does he acknowledge? Yep. That the people had sinned by taking pagan wives. What does the phrase broken faith mean in light of this commandment in verse 2? Yep. Broke their covenant. They violated a promise made between them and God. Or transgressed. Stepped outside the boundary. So what was Shechaniah's plan for Restoration. Yep. That they would divorce the pagan wives, and Ezra would be in charge of the process. No. But I think the reason why it took over 3 months to do the separation is because they had to do it according to God's laws. So they couldn't just say, I shouldn't have married you, go, take your kids. They would have had to made restitution to supply for them and for the kids. Or, and it doesn't say it in the text, maybe some of them converted to Judaism. Some of the women might have gone through the process to leave their pagan religion, and some of them might have been restored and been able to keep. I'm guessing that's why the process took so long. Yeah. How does this fit? Yeah. They were commanded not to. So, I mean, divorce is put in. Not, they could have had multiple wives as well. But God would not have let them just be tossed aside. So if they were doing it according to God's law, I'm guessing they had the chance to convert to Judaism. Leave your pagan religions, convert, and then the marriage could stay. If you're not going to convert, then the husband, he is the one who sinned. He has to give enough money to support the wife and the children and whatever when he sends them on their way. God hasn't destroyed him yet. As long as God has not destroyed you, you still have hope. And Ezra said, there's a plan. You're going to have to separate yourself from the pagans as you were commanded. So being the fact that God didn't just destroy them, there's still hope. Ezra responds and agrees. So why was the penalty for not coming to Jerusalem when Ezra called so severe? They're going to lose everything and be tossed out if they didn't show up. Yeah. The sin impacted them all. So if they don't come to atone for it, fix it, well, then we'll just banish you and get you out of here. Take your lands and give them to somebody who will obey. The consequences were severe, so the punishment for not showing up was also severe. The assembly takes place on the 12th day of the 9th month, which would be like late December. So over there, cold, rainy season. Maybe, yeah. How did the men respond to Ezra's call to repentance? Most of them agreed, right? Except a few. And they get named out for all eternity in here for opposing it. But there's a few that opposed. Yeah, it sounds like that's where they're headed. So why was Ezra qualified to perform the examinations and pronounce the appropriate judgments? Go back to, he studied the law and was a teacher of the law. That was his calling. Yep. God alone is to be worshipped as the Jews stepped across that line. So why is it such a big deal marrying pagan women? Let's go to Solomon. I mean, he had 1,000 wives, most of which who were pagan. What did that cause Solomon to do? Turned away from God. He started worshiping other gods. Yeah, he still worshiped Yahweh, but he also worshiped all these other ones. We often think we're the strong ones. I can date somebody that's not Christian and I'll make them a Christian. That very, very rarely works. 99.9% of the time, they turn you because their way's easier. We lose. You're lucky we don't have time to do that set apart activity where you have to name your own sins. Name your own sins. I was hoping we'd get to that today. But I encourage you to do that activity in your book. It's actually very good. It goes to the New Testament and uses Paul's writing, because we'll sit here and we will condemn the Jewish people for being so foolish to disobey God's law, while we disobey God's law every day. And that activity makes you look at your own. So, yeah, I'd encourage you to do it. Because I know you got to be like me every time you read this and go, how do they do it again? Again, they're doing this. But then read that activity and answer the questions honestly, and so do you. Every single one of us do the same thing. Any questions? Ed, you want to close us in prayer?